Yeah, I think I'd like to try me out a life in the stars. My friends all say I need a place to air out my heart, so I'm moving to Mars.
Welcome to Artist Connection. I'm Kevin Fagan, and today we're talking about arts education. Some people can pick up an instrument and just start playing right away. It comes naturally. Other people need to train. So the question is, do you have to drill to get your music down right? Or can you just let things naturally flow? We're going to talk to 3 different artists today about how they approach this process. And then afterwards, we'll come back and see what we found. Alicia Murphy is a singer-songwriter based in Long Beach, California. She's released 1 CD, 2 EPs, and 2 singles, and she plays in venues all over the West Coast. Hello, Alicia. Thanks for coming today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, how important is it to have an education when you're writing music?
Oh my gosh. That's a big question, but I think it's important to at least have a bit of an education when it comes to making music. Just even the slightest exposure to, piano chords or, some guitar is really helpful.
What taught you? What got you going?
I took piano when I was a kid. I think I got kicked out of it because I didn't practice.
Kicked out?
Yeah.
Like so many other kids.
Yeah.
Who likes to practice?
I was one of those non-practicers. And then, I actually got into poetry, the broad spectrum of the arts.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then in 5th grade, and then that kind of developed into a songwriting thing because I picked up a guitar and kind of started putting the poetry with the music, and then combined.
How did you figure out, without taking classes in songwriting, how did you learn how to put together the music and the words?
I don't know if I learned it or if it was just one of the, music is pretty magical, and it's one of those things that kind of happens. The first song that I really wrote officially was this song called Raindrops, and I wrote it in the middle of July. It wasn't raining in Southern California.
You were just hoping for rain.
Yeah, and it just kind of developed, and I was just plucking at single strings, even not really even playing full chords yet. So,
was it necessary did you go through chord charts and figure out, well, A goes with D, and then usually E is going to follow after that?
How much
thinking did you do into that?
None. I just went with what sounded right and felt right. Actually, my bassist who plays with me, he's gone to school for all of that stuff, and sometimes he'll tell me that I've done some sort of, I can't even say the words, I don't even know what they're called, some triple chord something.
Really?
I don't know.
How useful is the thing we're trying to get at is how useful is it for those kinds of rules, and when you break the rules?
Yeah.
How do you find rules useful at all to you?
I think rules have their place in life. I think that it depends on what, if you're trying to achieve something in music, I think that definitely will determine what kind of education you need to get those things done. If you're trying to write symphonies, then probably should know some more things than what I know. But if you're just trying to express yourself and get feelings out, then I don't think very much is necessary at all.
Do you have templates in your head for what kind of songs you want to write? Are there, say, half a dozen types of songs that you're going to write?
Oh, wow. No, I don't think so. I don't. Songwriting to me is very, it's very cathartic. It's very how would I explain it? It's less of a plan and more of something that kind of happens. And then once I have all these songs that have happened, then I kind of they happen in different time periods of my life, and I'll group them together, and they become projects as a whole.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you find when you're writing songs or when you're trying to compose music that you're drawing on what you've heard before?
Yeah,
almost as if that was a class.
Yeah, definitely. I'll notice if I've been listening to a certain type of music for a while, then that'll definitely change the styling of the.
It's almost like the education is in writing. They say you write what you read.
Yeah.
It's almost like an education is you write as a songwriter.
Right, kind of what you hear.
Yeah, sure, what you hear.
Totally, yeah.
What kind of things do you like listening to most that translate into the stuff that you've done?
I listen to a lot of hip hop, a lot of like underground kind of conscious rap genre type thing. I think that really gives me the freedom of writing to a beat as the main driver to my type of songwriting.
Because you're a drummer too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started on drums, not formally or anything.
Well, how did you learn how to play drums?
My dad bought me a drum set, and I kind of just went for it, keep time. And then a kid that I grew up in church with, gave me a couple little pointers, and I just kind of ran with it. Yeah.
Almost like you always need someone to give you a few pointers. You took piano too, didn't you?
Yeah, so I got kicked out of that. I even took a little bit of guitar, but not for very long.
Yeah. How much did the piano help when you came time to play guitar?
It probably helped in loads of ways that I wasn't even aware of. But I think only recently, when I've kind of revisited the piano and started writing songs more on the piano, I've noticed like, oh, it's all clicking together, like what I've been doing on the guitar and how the piano's structured. So, I'm a slow learner, but we're getting there. Yeah.
Well, when you studied piano, was it classical or did you do,
no,
Inky Dinky Spider
That's
and
just,
stuff?
Yeah.
Little stuff.
Those little booklets. Yeah, whatever it was. Vague recollections of it.
Well, when you're bringing that to the template for writing and performing, doesn't it usually turn out to a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus? Or do you find a way to stretch that depending on what you've listened to?
That's interesting too. I'm rooted in folk music, and I think folk kind of gives you that freedom of like that pop doesn't really give you, that you can you can write a song with just verses if you want.
Sure.
And you kind of like Bob Dylan style, you just ramble. But I've kind of been balancing that with, especially being in LA, with writing pop songs, which I'm not formally writing pop songs, but just kind of the structure that they use to write songs.
How do you educate yourself to write better songs? How do you go about this? Is this
I
a
read
study
books.
thing, or do you sit around and think, or what?
You mean more like the musical aspect?
Yeah, how do you
of
make
it?
yourself a better performer, better music appreciator, really?
I go to a lot of shows.
Yeah.
I support a lot of my friends playing, and that's inspiring. It kind of gives you new life to playing songs, and really just taking the time to sit down and play an instrument. Just explore it, see what's happening.
Do you do scales? Do you
no.
do any of that practicing kind of thing?
I practice, but probably not according to any sort of like rules.
What do you practice?
I just, actually usually my practicing turns into writing a new song. So
no wasted time, huh?
Yeah, so it's, because that is how I get feelings out, and so once I pick up the guitar, it's hard for me to just stay focused and be like, no, you're playing the songs you've already written. Like, this is not the time for that. So, but time management is its own battle for me. So.
Like a lot of people, sure.
Yeah. But yeah.
How about learning new chords? How important is it? Do you page through the chord books and figure out funky chords?
The online chord books. I don't know. I really just explore it. I just play around with it, and then if I want to know what that chord was, I'll go and look it up. But sometimes I don't even know what chords I'm playing. Yeah.
How about the
super unstructured?
Well, that's a certain way.
Yeah.
Do you wish that you had classical training, or does it matter?
I'm so thankful for the art education that I did have, which wasn't necessary. Like I had parts of my art education was in music. Not necessarily super formal, but my fifth grade teacher took a lot of time to teach us about dance. She even took a couple of us aside for the summer and taught us like art history and took us to like the Getty Museum in LA
Really?
and really focused on like poetry and all of those elements really shape my whole my musical projects. I do a lot of art. Like I have people create art for my projects, and then I'll use that art to kind of create these things called zines. You know about zines?
Right.
Yeah. And kind of use their art, use it with information. So like it's a whole process with all the various types of art.
Yeah, because you give the zines out at your gigs, right?
Yeah,
and just explain real briefly what they are.
Yeah, so it's like a little pamphlet, little self-published pamphlet, and I'll cut out the art pieces and then put information, lyrics, things that my friends wrote that I like, things that relate to the overarching theme of the musical project as
Sure.
I feel about it. So yeah, I really feel like all of the art elements contribute to the musical element.
So the visual,
Yeah.
the physical,
Yeah.
everything kind of gets
you
incorporated.
You need all of it, and especially today with the way the music industry is with videos.
Your videos are, I can see what you're talking about, because
Yeah.
the education that you had visually helps you.
Yeah.
Because your videos are wonderful.
Thank you.
Go on a website and watch them, people.
Yeah, and I also have the background as a hydrology major, more sciencey engineering stuff, and even in that education, I could see how valuable, having an eye for design and format and an open mind to thinking outside the box really is key for any sort of engineering process for our whole infrastructure as a society.
It's like the most generalized education you can possibly imagine that goes into doing music.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, tell us a little bit about this song you're going to play.
Yeah, so it's called The Water Song, and it's basically a reflection of my opinions of how we as a society, specifically in California, because I was raised in California, and we have quite a few water issues, and just kind of my reflections on what that means as a society, what it means to cherish water and how we interact with water, and how important it is for life.
It's a wonderful idea. And in kind of a twist on the theme here,
Yeah.
you're educating through your music.
Yeah, so
it's not just a Who Loves You Baby song,
exactly,
is it?
yeah. I think that music is powerful. I think that there's a magic to sound that really has a special ability to transmit messages, and the importance of lyrics is amazing, and I think it's been a little devalued in certain areas of the industry, but I think that
Sure.
if you really hone in those lyrics, you can make
Well,
something
speaking of
cool.
how did you teach yourself to write an informative song like that? Because when you're learning when you're learning music, it's mostly
I'll tell you where
not
I
that.
wrote the song.
Yeah.
I wrote the song in Ireland.
Lovely.
Yeah, I was studying abroad, doing a water quality management course.
A lot of water in Ireland.
Yeah, a lot of water. And I was studying water, and the class had just ended, and everyone was asking so many questions, and I
Sure.
was like, all of a sudden it just hit me. You know how sometimes songwriting is just like, boom, it's in my head. I must go write it down this instant. And everyone was asking these questions. I was like, I gotta go write this song. And I just like beelined back to my apartment, wrote the song down, and there it was. So it wasn't really like a conscious, like, I'm going to write an informative song about water.
That's interesting. It's like everything that you learned
Yeah,
up to that point gets distilled.
Yeah, that's just how I interpreted it. Yeah.
And doesn't it become kind of instinctive? You're not thinking, I'm going to do an ABC structure on this particular song.
I think that's cool too. I think, there's a place for all different types of music. I think that it's important to have that base musical education or art education to give to open yourself up to that world and let that be a possibility, whether it's structured or unstructured.
Did your bass player give you any pointers about whether you went against music theory on any way?
He's so kind to me. He gives us, when we're on the road, he'll give us my sister and I, he'll give us little lessons on, harmonics and but I don't know how much I retain, but
It all goes into the hopper, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes somewhere.
Do you ever get stuck and then have to harken back on something you did before?
Yeah, I get stuck all the time.
Yeah.
But you always push through and just kind of use it as another form of inspiration. You know?
When you're getting ready to perform or to write something, do you find it's handy to play something that you like? So it's almost like downloading certain patterns into your head?
Like songs that I like or cover songs? Performing live is super fun. I am really bad at writing set lists.
Yeah.
There it goes with the
Can't
structure.
decide.
The structure thing.
Time
Well, I like to
management.
vibe it out. I like to see
Yeah.
how the audience feels, how I feel, and what songs will fit. That doesn't bode well for time management. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's also that thing where you build on what you've done before.
Totally.
You bring that to it because you're the kind of song doesn't work right there, does it?
Yeah. There's orders that you can put songs in that are better or not.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing this song.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for being here today.
Yeah, lovely talking to you. Why is the system making us spit in water suitable for drinking? No, it's something I think everyone should be thinking, because without that water, we die. Oh, one of our last chances of survival's being pumped thick and full of oil. Oh, reverse osmosis can't reverse our choices, yeah. And without that water, we die. Oh, I have myself a heyday when I see a pipe leaking. Oh, I even freak out when I see a sink dripping. Yeah, so turn off your faucets, conserve what we got left, 'cause without water, we die. Oh, we're complaining about taste. We're in a constant state of waste, using plastic bottles to bottle the same stuff that's in our sinks. Oh, that's mad, you mad hatters, that's mad. Oh, get mad, you mad hatters, get mad. Oh, that's mad, you mad hatters, that's mad. Oh, get mad, you mad hatters, get mad. Oh, so when I preach water saving its own world, we're devastated. I need everyone to listen up, because without that water, nothing really matters much. Yeah, I said without that water, we don't get granddaughters or grandsons. Oh, so go tell somebody that we gotta change. Can't have Fiji, Arrowhead, sparkling plastic all over the place, because without plastic, we'll survive. Oh, but without water, I said without that water, oh no, without water, we die.
Brian Souders plays harmonica in the duo Two Track Mind. He's based in Sacramento and plays in Sacramento and South Bay Area clubs and open mics. Hey Brian, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
So how'd you learn how to play harmonica?
Well, it comes with a little bit of a backstory. I was about 13 years old, and I went to a junior high summer camp. A guy got up on stage for a talent show and played a song by the J. Giles Band. It was called Whammer Jammer. And this is one of the super fast chugging songs where the guy's just going da-da-da, 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 and he starts just wailing. The whole place is clapping their hands and stomping their feet and everything.
Beautiful.
And the sound grabbed me of what was possible with such a little instrument. And so I went up to him afterwards and I said, hey, could you teach me how to do that? And he goes, yeah, we go to the same church, don't we?
No kidding.
And I said, yeah. I mean, I had recognized him. I didn't know if he'd recognized me or not. And then he came back to church about 2 weeks later, and he had a cassette tape and a harmonica and a book, and he gave them to me.
Oh,
and I went home and practiced for about 2 hours a day for the next 2 or 3 months, just driving my parents crazy. They were
really
asking me to stop each day because I just kept playing and kept playing. You know, when you learn to play the harmonica, it's really easy for it to sound like a stepping on a goose. You know what I mean?
Violin.
Yeah, like violin.
It'd be awful.
Yeah.
So just with the cassette and the book, that's like 1,000 kids learn that way.
Yeah. It was kind of just this self-taught, and there was just a sound I was after. So I would fast forward through the cassette to find what I was looking for. And then after that, I was just listening to different songs and things.
Who'd you listen to help download in your head?
One of my earliest influences, and this was subliminal, I didn't know that I was enjoying the harmonica, this is even before I started playing it, is Huey Lewis and the News.
Oh yeah, he's good.
And yeah, he's a great harmonica player. And my dad would take me on fishing trips, and he would always play Huey Lewis. It was like his favorite band, and so I had that sound in my head already. I also discovered some of the classics like Little Walter and Sonny Boy Williamson.
Yeah.
I really grabbed onto Sonny Boy strong. He was a wonderful harmonica player.
Oh, terrific. Bluesy, rips it in.
And I'll clarify, Sonny Boy number 2, known as Rice Miller. There were 2 Sonny Boys, so you got to get your
history. You get into Norton Buffalo and
not till later years.
Yeah.
Not till later years. Once I had turned 21 and started playing actually in clubs and bars and things, did I grab onto some of the other players.
Well, the whole idea of learning how to play something like that, at what point did you get enough scales, enough background in the instrument to be able to just rip off on your own?
That's an interesting conversation, because I didn't realize that practicing things like scales was the shortcut to learning an instrument.
Really? What did you think instead?
Well, here's the thing, is I grew up playing a little bit of piano and a little bit of tenor saxophone, and these were things that were put on through school, right? And they're always teaching you these scales, and I'm sitting there going, I want to play blues. That's what I want to do. And so I completely shied away from all the traditional forms of learning. Really? I didn't want to do scales at all. I didn't want to do any of these practice sessions. I just wanted to play what was in my head. And I just tried to figure out what those notes were when I heard something. Otherwise, I would just imitate other players where I liked what they were playing.
So how did you make it so that you could hit the right notes? Because a lot of lead playing, a lot of harp playing is doing scales.
Right. I guess I formed an ear the long, hard way. Yeah. But I didn't start doing scales until I was 24 years old. So I was already, 10, 12 years into the instrument before I started doing scales. And then I realized that I had been kind of immature about it and needed to go back and relearn things.
Relearning.
Yeah.
So what was the cassette showing you when you first started out with the kid from church?
The cassette was showing me all the sounds that were available on the harmonica.
The sucking and the bending.
Because a lot of people don't know that you're both drawing and blowing with the harmonica. I mean, it's a deceiving little instrument. You look at the thing and it's a borderline toy. It's a joke of an instrument. And yet you can walk into a bar with this instrument and either keep it in your pocket and no one knows the difference, or you can walk up on stage and convince the guy that's running the show of your talent and open that thing up and be the loudest guy in the house. And it's so when you're learning everything that's available on the harmonica, that in itself takes years, and with a lot of instruments, takes years and years just to develop the technique of what's going on with your tongue. Because the other thing about the harmonica is it's not only deceiving, but it's also a bit of a mystery. If I'm like this, you can't tell what I'm doing.
Right.
You can't see. It's not like a piano where you can watch fingers, or a guitar where you can watch someone strumming. You can't see what I'm doing and what's going on in inner workings.
So that makes it a little tough to teach, I would think. So, because you teach too. Tell me a little bit about who you teach.
Okay. My main demographic of people that I teach, And this came through. I began teaching because I was in college. I needed a little extra money, and I was looking for an advanced harmonica instructor. So I jumped on Craigslist, right? The place where you can find anything.
Sure.
And I was looking for a harmonica instructor, and there were none. And so I was like, well, I'm a intermediate player. I could teach at least the basics. And so I put an ad up and said, I'll teach for, $25 an hour or something.
Were you hoping to learn more by teaching?
Well, I guess I discovered a need that was there and decided to, actually, I'll get to this. Within 48 hours, I had about 6 students booked, and they were all men over the age of 50.
Holy cow.
And a lot of the story of when they came in, I said, so why do you want to learn the harmonica? They said, well, my dad had some harmonicas, and he either passed away or he handed me his box of harmonicas. And so now I remember that as a memory in my life growing up, and now I want to teach other people. I want to show my kids and have them have that.
That's the point. That instrument's been around forever. My dad had one. That's how I started. I don't play great harp, but it just draws you. It seems like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
But what do you find when they come in and they say, oh, I can do this? Where do you go from there?
Well, I guess I find out. I play things and say, what do you want to sound like? What do you want to accomplish? And they'll normally either bring me a CD or a YouTube video or something of someone playing, and I'll say, okay, let's break that down note for note and let's learn it. But here was the other thing is, I figured out my shortcomings when I started teaching, and so I had to go back because I wasn't theory based. Yeah. So when someone comes up and goes, well, is that the 7th that you're hitting, or is that the natural minor? I'm going, you're talking gibberish, man. Just play this note. Can't you hear it?
So you didn't know did you even know the names of the notes?
I knew the names of the notes. I knew some of the basics.
Yeah.
But in terms of the math that is involved in music theory, I definitely was not as knowledgeable as.
Why did you need the music theory? How did that help?
Because guitarists came to me most of the time.
Really?
They played the guitar, and they knew the music theory through that, or they had been professionally taught and gone through what I'll consider a classical musician training.
Yeah.
And so you learn that sort of thing. They had learned their scales, they had learned their instrument correctly, and now they wanted to move on to a different instrument.
Boy, that's interesting.
So here I am, kind of a front porch harmonica player, trying to teach him, just do this, man.
That's interesting. So what was it that made your natural intuitive ability better than the formal, rigid training?
Well, I guess when you're learning an instrument from watching other people, there's 3 steps to it. The first step is you're imitating them. Okay, I call it imitate, and I know people probably heard this before. I didn't create this, but imitate, assimilate, innovate. So you're listening to the other person, and you're trying to figure out what it is they're doing. Then you've learned it, and you practice it. The assimilation comes in. You've fully engulfed yourself. You've learned it completely, and then you're taking that sound and making your own out of it, and that's where the innovation is involved. And so, I just always gravitated towards that style of learning. I never wanted to, I guess it was kind of in every aspect of my life. I've never wanted to be the guy that read the instructions to the manual on building a kid's crib or something. I've just kind of always gone for, just lay it out in front of me, I'll figure it out.
I got a feeling you're like most performers.
Maybe.
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of people just come to it because we love it.
Yeah.
And so you do it and you feel it and you're hearing it and you're assimilating it and you're spitting it out.
Right.
So do you have your students do scales and do practicing?
Actually, I do. I do.
After all these years.
Lesson 1, here's the blues scale.
Really?
And that's so you know your notes, and so you can grab them and put them in different order and start, soloing, basically.
Yeah.
Start making stuff up and start having fun with the instrument. Yeah.
And do you find that it's better for you to play with them when they're practicing, or do you just send them home with a couple of YouTubes and say, here's the thing of Charlie Musselwhite, do that over and over and over?
I definitely play with them.
Yeah.
I definitely play with them. I also teach through Skype, and that was really interesting. Is I have a website, and threw up a YouTube video just saying, hey, I'll teach through Skype lessons if anyone's interested. And in a little while, I had 3 young guys from Brazil who wanted to learn how to. You gotta be kidding. Yeah.
So you're teaching guys in Brazil by Skype?
By Skype. Yeah.
But they can't see what you're doing with your mouth. What do you?
Well, they can because it's video conferencing, and so I'm basically getting right up to the camera, you know, and going, here's what I'm doing, and I tell them beforehand, I go, listen, this is a kind of an awkward instrument to teach. Yeah. I'm going to be showing you my tongue and that kind of a thing, and we're going to be doing throat practices without the harmonica, and it's going to sound the people in the other room, your family maybe who's home, is going to be like, what is going on in that room? But we'll learn the instrument, and I'll teach you how to do it.
I'll be darned. Well, I love this song you're going to perform. Tell us a little bit how you do this thing. It's got a couple of things going on.
Yeah. So one of the musicians that I really started to gravitate towards in the last couple of years, his name's Son of Dave. And he's the he's out of Canada, and he does a beatboxing loop station harmonica routine that I saw him play and just said, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I got to learn how to do that.
Learning by watching.
Yeah. So I wrote a song called Sacktown Blues, and it basically came out of the heart of going to college in Sacramento and walking into a club with friends and just looking for that fun Saturday night. And so that's what the song's about, and in it I'll use a loop station, and I'll loop over some beatboxing. Yeah. And I grab a low-tuned E-flat harmonica, so it's a whole octave lower than your traditional harmonica.
Yeah, I noticed it is.
Gets that kind of gritty sound to it.
Really, just dropping it that little bit.
Yeah, just that octave does wonders for the sound. So and then I'll be singing and have a hand shaker and every foot's moving, and
you're like a one-man band.
Kinda, yeah.
And no guitar, no backing.
No guitar, no backing. You create it on the spot. I actually started doing this because I was playing in a duo called the Souders Junkies, and I host an open mic at the Lockdown Brewery in Folsom every Wednesday night. Huh. And we were hosting it together, me and my friend Gabe. He's a wonderful guitarist and singer, and I was the harmonica kind of accompaniment. We were a blues duo. Right. And he moved with his family out to Iowa, and the bar owner said, hey, would you like to keep hosting?
The end of many bands.
And so I'm sitting there. Yeah, I'm sitting there going, I don't have a guitarist. What am I going to do? And so I'm thinking, okay, do I try and do the one-man band? And immediately I'm thinking in my head, Mary Poppins with the clean cymbals and the big bass drum on the back or whatever. And I'm like, oh, goodness, I got to come up with something a little bit more modern than that. So
you assimilated and you innovated.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for coming by.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. Downtown in my Sacktown Blues, hot summer afternoon, 12th Avenue cruise. Me and my boys fit to hit the spot. I got a groove to my mosey, I feel like a shot of Grey Goose. Now all you gents in coats and hats and feline ladies and alley cats looking smooth, you gotta sit on back, relax, and kick your feet up. But not every night I turn the heat up, my Sacktown Blues. Now the bar is slamming with shots and drinks. You got Sacktown regulars, nods and winks. You know the scene. It's Saturday night and I'm feeling so loose. The DJ's spinning my Sacktown blues, B.B. King. Now the rhythm grabs your soul, and the beatbox makes you stroll. Come together, rockin' the roll. Sunday Slim is bringing it home, man. And if the rhythm grabs your soul, and the beatbox makes you stroll, come together 'cause I'm rockin' the roll. Sunday Slim is bringing it home now.
Laura Sandage is a vocalist, multi-instrumentalist, and she's performed in the acoustic trio Mudlark. She's based in Davis, California, and appears on 3 CDs. She's also a professional choir director working with choirs in Davis, California. Hi, Laura. Thanks for coming today.
Nice to be here.
So you teach all ranges of ages in music, and tell me a little bit about the difference between teaching a little kid and teaching an adult.
It's not as different as you might think.
Yeah.
I think in some ways my time teaching preschoolers and kindergartners is incredibly good training for any kind of performing or teaching, because those little people do not stand on politeness. You know, whatever works for them, that's what works.
You really got to drag them in.
If what you're doing doesn't work, they don't just humor you. You know, you have to have an energy and an intention and material that keeps them engaged and keeps it going. And that's what, I mean, ideally in a performance setting, I feel also really conscious of the flow and wanting to keep people engaged and not wanting to have awkward moments where I'm unplugged from them or I'm making them uncomfortable or leaving them out, you know.
So an audience is like a bunch of second graders.
Yeah, or even littler. Yeah, and then a group of adults. If you're working with a group of adults, it's sort of the same thing too. When I prepare for a choir rehearsal, I don't just have a checklist of things I need to get done. I have a shape of how I want the evening to flow.
Sure.
Like a shape of a performance. I know that I'm working with the energy in this room of these people and inviting them in, make sure there's some laughter and loosening up in the beginning. There's movement, there's mental engagement, they're learning, they're doing stuff, and then at the end it needs to be fun or settling down or relaxing. You know, there's this whole thing that's like what you do in a preschool music class. You have to go through a kind of ritual that keeps them comfortable at every stage and brings them to what they're ready to do next. And I feel like that's how it works with audiences, that's how it works with groups of adults that I'm teaching. I mean, one-on-one teaching is a whole different thing, but
Sure. Now, with little kids, how much do you have to drill? I remember being in 4th grade learning the recorder, doing the songs we did, practicing them endlessly, and it got very boring. How do you get kids to learn enough scale and technique so they can then do something with the music rather than just get frustrated from practicing endlessly?
Yeah, I've never taught 4th grade recorder, and there may be a reason I've avoided that.
Yes, it's pretty shrill, huh?
But I've worked with kids of intermediate ages, like at Camp Winter Rainbow, which is this really creative place. I think a lot of the game is keeping it engaging and interesting because what they're doing matters. Like you're working inside a song, and when I'm giving those preschoolers this little shaker egg that they need to shake only on the part when we go, all you need is love. That's their time for shaking. And when it goes back to, there's nothing you can do that can't be done, that's their time for holding it quietly. And if I just told them to drill, okay, shake 4 times, stop, whatever, that could be boring. But if you're in the context of a song and you know that the energy of the song requires this quiet attention of waiting, it's so hard for preschoolers to not shake their egg.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're waiting and you're waiting and you know your time is going to come. And then when it comes, you're like so happy because you're shaking your egg. That little thing with preschoolers is sort of what you're doing with any bunch of people, that you're trying to, as you repeat it, you're not just repeating it for rote, but you're repeating it to get fully into that experience and to understand why, musically why, artistically why are we doing this?
Because there are 2 things that go into playing music, and one is knowing the technique, being able to make your fingers do what they need to do, and then it's feeling it. Yeah. Because if you're not feeling the music, if you're not enjoying it, whatever you've learned doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, to me, that exactly, the feeling is the leading cause. The technique stuff is what we're doing in support of having that feeling.
Sure.
That's why we're all here, is to have that feeling together. And even if a group of singers, the singers I work with now, a lot of them are inexperienced, untrained, but they have hearts and souls and ears, and they know that feeling when you can get it. And by working to have those feelings of connectedness and of musicality, their technique improves. I mean, that's their motivation. They want to feel that sound. They want to master how to get that nice ooh vowel that matches everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And,
well, it's almost like you have to hit a tipping point. Otherwise, because you can be very emotional and enthusiastic about your music, but you can come off sounding like some bad movie of someone singing it in a shower or off key. You need to be able to hit it. How do you ever have people in choir, don't name any names, who just can't get the technique and they're always sounding like a car horn in the background somewhere?
Well, I just think there are people who may present a certain situation that needs attention. You give it attention and you try to, it's like shepherding your flock. You don't just say this is how they are and they're always going to be that way. And if there's something about them that really is always going to be that way, whatever it is, a physical limitation, or then you have your creativity comes into play as a director. You figure out how this can be made into a positive thing, how we're going to work around it, and how we're going to do something that will work for that person.
I can hear Wavy Gravy at Camp Win a Rainbow
right.
really appreciating what you're doing.
Yeah.
So does everyone have something to offer musically? Does everyone have at least a little something, even if they're tone deaf?
I think like tone deafness is almost a myth. Like I think it's a very, very rare thing. The way I see it is there's like a spectrum from unable to match pitch consistently, unable to match rhythm consistently, to like yo-yo ma or whatever. That's like the human spectrum. People are born with different, they're born in different places along there, having some stuff just given to them.
Yeah.
But wherever they are, they can move forward. No matter how advanced they are or how beginning they are, if they have something they want to do better, they can work on that and they can make progress. Different people will make progress at different speeds, but the main thing is, do you care about making that progress, and is the process enjoyable? Whatever you're doing needs to not be shaming you, not be making it about being wrong and bad. That's a lot of the work I do too, is trying to make sure people feel safe and that whatever it is they have to give can be received.
It's like a safety to sound bad, at least at first.
Yeah. I mean, that's what writers want too. Writing, if you're going to write, you have to be, Natalie Goldberg said, free to write the worst crap in America. That's one of her rules of free writing. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to block up the creative process. Judgment and shame are stoppers on creativity in any art form.
And you learn by doing, to a large extent. I mean, some people, like you said, you can open your mouth and it comes out beautifully. Some people have to drill.
Well, and even if they have those innate, whatever innate gifts they have, there's something they could still be learning. Maybe they have the gift of really accurate pitch, but they need to learn more about, in a choir, about the sharing of the experience and about listening to others, not just listening to themselves.
Well, then that becomes an alchemy when you get a group together, especially a choir of a dozen people or so. Making it all fly in the same order is kind of magical.
It is. It's a profound experience when people harmonize together and when their voices are making something beautiful together. People in my free range singers group thank me for church at the end of the evening.
It is church. Yeah, it feels like good music always feels kind of like church or synagogue.
Yeah, it's any connection to the creative energy, like
absolutely.
That's the highest power.
Now, if you're coaching a bunch of people, is there a point where you can tell that they've got the fundamentals down enough to be able to cut loose and take it to that intuitive level?
Well, there are places you go if you're working on material to get to performance. I mean, what happens to me as a director is I notice my ears go to a new place. If I've been working on the notes and the rhythms and getting these things right, if those things get right enough, then what I start to notice is the dynamics are not interesting. Or I start to notice some other parameter that I've been ignoring because I've been trying to fix this.
Because it's too right?
Well, no, yeah, if that's gotten to good enough, then I go to the next level of interest. It's not only about notes and rhythms. We want dynamics. We want sensitivity. We want to make sure the beginning and the ending are really well handled. So it's like there's a natural process of what I go after. It just sort of clicks in because the basics have been laid. The foundation has been laid.
Can your formal training ever get in the way of doing, loving, listenable music? Can you be too, because when you're very classically trained, you hit one wrong note, you go, oh my God, and you want to stop and go, how do you marry together a rigid formal training with an emotive, emotional performance?
I think you just have to take the parts of it that you want, that match your values, and you can have personal values, musical values, the ability to be really in tune as a musical value, to be right on pitch is something that's raised up pretty high in the conservatory training.
Sure.
But it's also innately pleasurable. The interest in that doesn't just come from that training, and the pursuit of that, and doesn't just end after I got my degree. Like, I'm always interested in that when I'm singing. If I can get right on that thread, it feels good. And I'm interested in sharing that experience with other people as much as they are able. It is true at times, like, I just have to keep my own values in the center. Yeah. And if the choir isn't singing as in tune as I would like, and it's not, I wish it would be better. My job as a director is try to figure out what I can do to help, how I can.
Yeah, you're balancing the ability with the feel, too.
And it has a lot to do with choosing repertoire that they can be successful at. And it's like all these different pieces. If I try something with them that turns out to be too hard and kind of not a very fun experience for everybody,
you're not getting it.
I just feel like I have to try again, either teach it differently next time or choose different repertoire next time. It's finding the sweet spot.
Because not everyone's going to sing the same kind of thing.
No.
Well, tell us a little bit about this song you're going to do for us today.
It's about a 2-week-old song. You know how songwriters are.
Oh,
whatever you wrote lately is what you think is the best thing.
Sure,
so
of course.
It's called Make Your Art, and it's kind of a mission statement. Like, this is how I feel, that people need to do whatever it is they have to do, to give. They have their own art that wants to come out of them, and it's not about trying to be like somebody who's a celebrity. It's about doing whatever you have. And parts of the song came in a dream, which sometimes happens to me. It was like a dream of listening to
those are some of the best songs, huh?
It was like a Sweet Honey in the Rock kind of song, a choral song with this close harmony that was about this. And right now I just developed it as a solo song with guitar, but I plan to arrange it for choir and have it be something that I could do with my free-range singers.
It's almost like you wrote it for Topic.
Somebody did. The creative spirit has its ways.
Oh, that's beautiful. So in your dream, how much of the song was done in your dream when you woke up?
Oh, not very much. It wasn't like it was all spelled out, but it was like the vibe of it,
Yeah, the
and
hook.
and more like the way the chords were, the feeling of these close chords, and then and the general topic. But it wasn't like it came with words and melody all figured out. But it was enough to get me to the piano.
Sure. When you woke up, did you bang out a rough structure right away, or did you let it sit for a while?
No, I think I jotted down the idea in my journal in the morning, and then I went to it later that day. I think like you have to not wait too long.
That's right. Otherwise, it kind of slips and fuzzes.
And then it's just one of those things you find in your journal. Oh, that was a good idea.
How did that
3
go?
years ago? How come I never did that?
Yeah. Well, lovely. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for the conversation.
Alrighty.
You've got a song to sing, a poem or a dance to dance. You've got a pot to throw, a painting or a film. If you've got a dress to sew, an afghan or a quilt to piece, a book to write, a play to stage, a chair to build. Make your art, no one else can share your heart, no one else can. We need you to be exactly who you are, to be generous and brave, and make your art. You've got a stand-up act, a sculpture or a drum to drum. You've got a photograph, a treehouse or parade. If you've got a fashion show, a video or blog to share, a cake to bake, a tale to tell, don't be afraid. Make your art, no one else can share your heart, no one else can. We need you to be exactly who you are. So be generous and brave, and joyfully make your art.
So what did we learn from this? Well, we learned that you do need a little bit of training. Sometimes it's just 3 chords. Sometimes it's learning scales and music theory. But the bottom line is you want to get a basis, and then you figure out where your music is taking you. That could mean that you need to really develop new skill sets, learn different patterns, figure out how to coordinate with other artists in a tighter way, learn more harmony technique. It can be naturally coming to you, or it can be something that you have to develop with a lot of hard work. But the bottom line is music, as in life, is something that you need to follow with your heart and your soul. And so wherever your heart and your soul are taking you, that's where you go, that's where you take your training, and that's where you take your music. So this is Kevin Fagan at Artist Connection, and we'll see you next time.